Good morning. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to some fundamental concepts regarding circles. Some of this may be review, but it never hurts to review the fundamentals just in case. These concepts we will be using going forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is a radius of a circle. The radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. So let's take an example of what that would look like. If I have a circle here, you could see this dot in the middle, that's my center. The radius would be going from the center to a point on the circle. This is a line segment that we learned about earlier on in the year. And what's interesting is that all radii are equal in length. So I could draw another radius, let's say over here, and this radius would have the exact same length, okay? So a radius is a segment that measures the distance from the center to any point on the circle. Okay, now let's talk about a chord, okay? A chord is also a segment whose endpoints are on the circle. Okay, so let's take an example of what that looks like. For me to have a chord, I basically have to have one endpoint and another endpoint on the circle, and I'm connecting the dots. Okay, that's a chord. Here's another example of a chord. The key feature of the chord is that the entire segment is inside the circle, okay? So example of a chord. Okay, now, you're probably familiar with a diameter, okay? A diameter is really technically a chord, but it's a chord that passes through the center of the circle. And technically, a diameter is the longest chord on the circle. So in order for me to be a diameter, I literally have to go through the center point and I have to touch either ends of the circle, okay? And what's interesting is the diameter, right, this entire thing, which I'll label D, is made up of actually two radii, right? There's one radius here and one radius here. Okay, now a tangent line, this is something you may not be familiar with. A tangent line is a line that intersects the circle at exactly one point. And the key thing about the tangent line, it's always going to be on the outside of the circle. So let me give you an example of what a tangent line looks like. And you'll use tangent lines when you get to higher level math, okay? So if I have a circle and I have a point here, a tangent line looks like this, right? It touches the circle in exactly one point. And theoretically, because it's a tangent line, right, I really should put arrows to show that it extends infinitely in either direction. Let me draw another tangent line here. The key feature of this tangent line is that it touches the circle in exactly one point. And again, to be a tangent line, it has to be outside of the circle. And finally, we have something called a secant line. A secant line is a line that intersects the circle at exactly 2 points. So the difference here is that we're actually going to go through the circle. So think about it like it cuts through the circle. So let me give you an example. So let's say I go like this, right? That is a secant line. Notice because it's a line, I put arrows on either end. Now they're crooked, but it goes through the circle. And it's different than a chord, right? Remember what we thought about as a chord. If I go up here to my chord, do you see how the chord is neatly contained inside the circle and never goes outside of it, that's because a chord is a segment that actually stops. But a secant line cuts through the circle and extends forever in both directions. Okay, so make sure that before you stop this video, maybe you want to pause it and just make sure that you have all of the notes written down. Feel free to watch this again, and then feel free to have this out anytime we do other examples. Okay, I will see you in the next video where I'll give you some concrete examples of each of these items.